Then my living shall not be in vain. No, my living shall not be in vain. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. Thank you so much. Good evening. It is indeed a pleasure to be here at Western Oregon. This is my first time in this part of the state. I have spent a good bit of time in Oregon at lots of different of your sister institutions, and this is my first time getting over here to be with you all. So I'm honored to be your seventh speaker, the speaker of your 7th annual MLK event. I am honored to be here tonight in that it is such a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak at these kinds of events. I want to honor tonight and welcome and appreciate the leadership here at Western Oregon, President Weiss, Cabinet, faculty and staff, the committee. I want to thank you all for your hard work in putting this wonderful event together. Especially I want to give appreciation to the woman who kept me on the phone, connected with me through emails, and made sure I had everything I need. Please join me in appreciating Affy. Thank you. Thank you so much. Having a good meal? Yeah. Let's appreciate those who made it possible that we even eat and serve those served our meal tonight. Thank you so much for your work. We appreciate you. It is so fitting at a celebration for Dr. King that we pay attention to those who serve us and not forget that when he talked about justice, he was talking about all of us. So thank you all for your labor. I want to honor the land that we stand on, not forgetting that this land was not ours, that it is a borrowed space, that there were folks here before we got here. And so I'm grateful for the ancestry of those whose land we share. I'm grateful for our ancestors, named and unnamed. I want you tonight, as we celebrate Dr. King and his legacy, to think about those who made it possible for you to be here. The mothers, the fathers, the grandparents, the great aunts and the great uncles. I'm remembering tonight my grandmother. Many of you may have seen the movie The Help. That movie reflected a great deal of my lived experience as I was that grandchild who was at home while she was away, making it possible for me to be able to stand here today. I want you to not forget them and feel their presence. Tonight, we have the opportunity to celebrate the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. MLK Days have been going on now for about 25 years. Every year you can count on hearing on the radio, on television, now even on the web, and YouTube, the I Have a Dream speech. The speech that has come to be known as one of the best written speeches in American history. The speech that spoke truth to power. It offered a message and a picture of hope for our future. You know the speech, the famous words, I have a dream. Dr. King dreamed of a world that he did not yet see, where blacks and whites and Jews and Gentiles and Catholics and Protestants could all be seen and valued as respected members of the human family. The challenge is that many of us are stuck in the 1963 I Have a Dream speech. We show up at these events and we have done our thing for diversity. We have done our thing for social justice and our work. We keep the program. It is often posted on our bulletin boards or sitting on our desk in our offices. And then we show up again a year later. I am appreciative today of the offering of this year's theme. For we've had many themes down through the years connected to the dream. Building the dream, holding the dream, keeping the dream. Is the dream alive? A dream deferred? Many things connected to the dream, very powerful. These themes offer us ways to pause and engage ourselves as well as each other, and to help us not make Dr. King's living in vain. Each generation will have its work to do to hold people true to the value that they say we have. Dr. King and those who went before him and those who walked alongside of him worked very hard to tear down the legal barriers so that we could have a room that looks like this, so that we could have the spaces and conversations and the opportunities to learn together. My generation benefited greatly from that work, tearing down those walls and having us live into the dream. You all, as parts of the next generation, have the responsibility now to help us move the dream forward, to help us live true to the dream. This year's theme here at Western is Dream Keeping, Personalizing the Vision. Dream Keeping, Personalizing the Vision. Now, often when I come and I speak at an event like this, I have a wonderful audience like you who come and have a wonderful meal and shake each other's hand and then leave. Not tonight. Your task for the next few minutes is to talk about the theme. I want to invite you to turn to one other person at your table after you've made sure you've met everybody at your table. I trust you've already done that. But if you haven't, please make sure that you do. And then I want you to talk about what it means for you to be dream keeping, personalizing the vision. You've got 5 minutes. Have a conversation. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's come back together. All right, how we doing? Excellent. Thank you so much. So, as I move into the rest of my remarks tonight, lest you think I was just trying to fill time, I'm a black preacher. That is not a problem for me. Every time I step into a room and I'm invited to give one of these speeches, I am really clear that it is not enough for me to talk, but you must use your voice. If we are to keep the dream, you must personalize the vision. You must be talking about what this means for you. Now, some of you were able to do, I don't know what you were talking about at your tables, but I want you to pay attention to, was I able to talk about what he invited us to discuss? Was I able to spend 5 minutes being in a visioning moment about what it means to continue creating liberty and justice for all? Or did I just come for the chicken? Did I just come to be seen in the space? Many times I'm at an event like this and folks will say, well, Jamie, you don't have to convince us. You don't have to try to make us understand. You're preaching to the choir. How many of you have heard that before? right? There's so many other people who need to be here. It's not us you need to be talking to. The other thing about being in ministry as long as I have is I've also had about 30 years of working with choirs. And what I know about the choir is that the choir needs rehearsal. And so if you're sitting here tonight feeling like I know all of this and I've got this, I want you to pay attention, choir members. If you really are just singing the songs that you know, if you are only in the choir when you get to sing solo, if you are only there when your favorite singer is singing, it is important for us tonight, if we are in fact to keep the dream, that we begin to explore what it means to personalize our vision. So thank you for sharing. I want to start tonight by talking about this vision in two parts. And I won't be before you long, but I really do feel like it is a very powerful theme for us to have. In this 60th anniversary year of Brown versus the Board of Education that struck down separate but equal, in this 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act, and last year's 50th anniversary of the National March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech was shared with thousands. The dream, keeping the dream, says to me, if we are not careful, we can lose it. If we are not careful, we can get caught up in the illusion of inclusion. What does that look like, you ask? Well, we're living in a post-racial era. I don't see color. I just see people as people. We elected a biracial president who identifies as African American, therefore race does not matter anymore. We are all done with race and racism. After all, we've got Oprah, Will Smith, Denzel Washington, Sonia Sotomayor, and a host of other sports figures, politicians, and celebrities. So what's all this about? Why can't we just live and let live? We've got marriage equality in many states. We've got Ellen DeGeneres, who even is doing makeup commercials, and Modern Family and Glee. So what do you people want? Haven't we achieved the dream? Isn't the work all done? It is easy to lose the dream and the notion of liberty and justice for all when many of the trappings of our society may look as if we've already achieved it. I don't want to minimize these strides for greater inclusion and justice. However, I would say we are not done. How do we not just have diversity, as we have in the room, but how do we move to a more inclusive society? How do we not just have room at the table, but how do we create space at the table for all voices to be heard? That's the work for the next round. Vision is what Dr. King had. Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech was a statement of vision. He envisioned a society and a world where all of us could be seen, valued, and heard, and respected. While his vision in that time was shared often in a race context, his vision was big and bold and broad and expansive. His vision was future-directed. Most importantly, as I said earlier, his vision was not something that he could have achieved on his own, nor was it something that he saw himself in the physical. Dr. King had a vision for his family, for his children, and that fueled his fight for social justice. He had experiences that fueled his dream. I ask you tonight, What's fueling your dream? What's the passion for your vision? Do you have a vision for the future? I know for me, after 30 years of actively engaging in this work around social justice, when I first started the work, I entered it as many of us enter it, from our places of pain, in the places where we've struggled for inclusion. And so, as a young African American, raised working class poor, gay identified man, I could identify many of the spaces where I felt excluded, where I was made to feel less than, and it was not just me, but many others who looked like me and shared my group memberships. Yes, I entered this place from a place, this discussion, this work, from a place of pain. I wanted a better world. I wanted a world where poor and working class children did not have to feel like they were not as smart or not as good as or not deserving because they didn't come from the same access to a quality education that some of their counterparts did. I wanted a world where folks, because of their color of their skin, and particularly for me at that time, African Americans, did not feel like they had limited options in terms of what they could do with their future. I didn't want to just feel like my only options were to be a preacher or a musician or an athlete. I wanted to feel like there were many options for me and for others. I wanted a world where no gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender child had to feel like they would lose access to the God of their knowing because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. Yes, I entered this work from my places of pain. And so my vision was for a world that included all of those identities. That was what was behind my vision and my passion. What I learned as I moved was that if I only focused on my pain, I served to continue creating pain for others. I did not realize at the time that I lived in the world with so many other opportunities. Today, I'm driven not only by the pain of ending the pain of racism and heterosexism and classism, the experiences in my own life, but also the pain and exclusion of others who are like me and those who are a part of my group and also feel the same source of pain. But where I got really effective at building a vision was when I realized I live with a great deal of privilege. As a cisgender, physically able, psychologically and mental male, over 50, like I'm older than the president. I don't know when that happened, but that's kind of a big deal for me. Business owner, Christian pastor, upper middle class, U.S. citizen, and more that I've not even named. I could easily see myself just focusing on my pain and not paying attention in the world to how I have privilege. And so today, I consider that I have enormous opportunities to create change. I get to use my privilege in the world to make it better, so that when I show up in a room, often as I do as the pastor or spiritual leader, and folks ask me to say a prayer, they often are asking me to give a Christian prayer. Now, I have no problem with the Christian prayer in a Christian space. When it's not a Christian space, I might consider that that invocation might include other ways of knowing and other people's spiritual journeys and paths. As I move about the world as a cisgender male, I am reminded of the things that I don't have to think about on a daily basis, whether that is about where I park, whether that is about how I get cut off, whether that is about how my ideas get taken, whether that is about how I get assumed to be only a sex object. I don't have to deal with some of the things that my female colleagues and counterparts live with every day. I don't worry that I'm going to be mispronounced or misgendered when I walk into a bathroom. I don't have to live in that struggle. I don't worry that when I show up at a meeting with a colleague in a wheelchair or a dinner that they will speak to my colleague as to order my food, because certainly if I'm in a wheelchair, I must not be able to speak or to talk either. I don't have to worry about not being heard because, baby, you just too young. Or, baby, you too old to know anything. I don't have to worry about being asked if I'm a citizen because I live with privileges in this United States. My vision for a world that is more inclusive requires that I not only deal with places of pain, but also that I deal with my places of privilege. I invite you all to think about how we keep the dream and build it. I want you to look out into the world and see what your vision is. You have that opportunity. However, you must not be stuck in 1963. You must update. What are the current injustices? While you may not see the same kinds of violent acts that you might have seen 50 years ago in most places, I believe that the microaggressions that we deal with each and every day can be just as painful and just as damaging and even more problematic because you cannot prove them. You will often deal with, oh, that's not what I meant. Oh, you're being too sensitive. Oh, I say that to everybody. The comments, the wonderings that we walk around with, well, did she ask me that because, did they say that because? So we live today trying to figure out how to navigate a world of inclusion that is different than we've ever known. I challenge you today, as I begin to take my seat, to consider these three things. 1, 50 years ago, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, in 1962, Martin Luther King spoke at Dartmouth. He spoke to Dartmouth men, and I was invited to be the 50th anniversary speaker at Dartmouth in honor of his visit there. In preparation for that visit, they sent me the videotape, the cassette tape of, not video, the cassette tape of his speech. Also, they sent me the transcript. What was powerful about his speech is illustrated in this first concept I want to share. Dr. King shared in his speech how far we'd come since American chattel slavery. Talked about how far we'd come since Jim Crow. And he shared very powerfully how we need to celebrate the great strides that we'd made around race. But he reminded them in that moment that he could stop there, but if he did, he would leave them incomplete. Folks, it is important for us to honor the legacy and the work of how far we have come. You must not show up in a room, must not show up in this work, assuming that nothing happened before you got here. I often am challenging young social justice advocates not to show up in the arrogance that they have seen it all and can fix it all. And so it is important to know that we have come a long way. But Dr. King also reminded them in that speech that we've come very far, and let me talk about how far we need to go. So the first thing I want you to remember, yes, always honor how far we've come, but pay attention to how far we need to go. The next thing is the intention and impact is the important thing for us to deal with as we vision a planet of inclusion for the 21st century. Because we now sit together in classrooms, because we now go to each other's events, because we now have a best friend who is, because we went to the drag show, because we now have gay friends on our wedding and things in our Facebook, now we can assume that we just operate all in the best intentions. So if I said something or did something that was racist, sexist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, please just focus on my intentions. I remind people all the time, though, if I walked over here and stepped on President Weiss's foot, and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. He says, okay. I said, well, Mr. President, I said I was sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And he said, and I said, okay. And I said, well, Mr. President, why you still seem like you have an attitude? While I said I was sorry, what might be still going on for Mark? What might still be going on for him? Pain! His foot is probably still hurting. And so as we envision a world where all of us can be included, we must not just deal with our intentions. We must also deal with the impact and allow people opportunities to move through the pain, even if we were sorry and did not mean to do it. Finally, I want to offer you the importance of moving beyond either or thinking. Folks, in 2014, there is not one right way to get us to more inclusion. Some feel like we need to be focused on economic justice. Some folks say we just need to work on education. Some folks say we need to be in healthcare. Some folks say we got to deal with the prison industry. There are so many different injustices that are alive and well today. I want you not to get caught in either or. Well, if we do this, then we won't be doing that. Well, if we do blacks, then we can't do Latinos. If we do Asians, then we can't do Native Americans and Mexican Americans. It's either or. If we do race, then we can't do sex orientation. If we do sex orientation, then we can't do gender identity. We get stuck in either or thinking. If we are to move forward, we must move beyond either or to both and to include it all and look at what our part is. All of us are not going to have the same passions for every part of the dream. That's why this theme, personalizing the vision, is so important. What is your personal vision for making the world more just? That's what you get to decide. I've worked with lots of people. And often when I am in spaces, people will say to me, well, Jamie, I wish that we could just do this. Why can't people just get along? Why do we have to even talk about race? Why can't we just be people? Why can't we just see the pink bow, right? Why can't people just, I just wish we didn't have to talk about, people didn't have to come out. I just wish we could all just get along. And I end my talks these days by reminding you, leaders, that a wishbone will never suffice where a backbone is required. If, in fact, we are to keep the dream, personalize the vision, we cannot wish it into place. You must get to work and make it happen. I believe you can. I hope you will. Thank you much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Thank you very much. You've given us all lots to think about, lots of introspection, lots of work to be done. Thank you very much. What a tradition we have here. Another tradition that we have at Western Oregon University, in conjunction with our annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, is an essay contest. To introduce the winner of that essay contest, I present to you our English writing specialist for Spanish speakers, Maria del Rosario Peralta Cortez.
Good evening, everyone. Oh, not very tall. Yeah, my name is Rosario, and I work at the Writing Center here on campus. And this year, I had the privilege of working on the essay committee to find our winners for our essay contest. The theme for this year was dream keeping, personalizing the vision. And so we asked students to reflect on a quotation of Dr. King that kind of reflected that. And more specifically, we asked them to kind of explain their role in maintaining the integrity of the dream within their daily lives and within the community. And so we have 3 awesome winners who get gift certificates to the bookstore in the amounts of $130, $100, and $70. So I'm going to ask them to come up. So our 3rd place winner was Tanya Bamboo. And then our 2nd place winner was Ana Jessica Camarena. And then our 1st place winner is actually, he gets to come up here and share his essay with us, so we get to read his words or listen to them. So Joseph Hahn, if you could come up here.
Thank you, Rosario. I'm not going to sing for you all, so it's definitely not my specialty. I'm an English major, so I did have to write, so what do you know? So this title of this essay is Waking Up Together. I'm going to read Martin Luther King's quote first. One of the great liabilities of history is that all too many people fail to remain awake during great periods of social change. Every society has its protectors of status quo and its fraternities of the indifferent who are notorious for sleeping through revolutions. Today, our very survival depends on our ability to stay awake, to adjust to new ideas, to remain vigilant in the face of the challenge of change. And now, the essay. Throughout most of my life, the major connection I have made with Dr. King has been his I Have a Dream speech. But he should be remembered for so much more. In his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? King mentions how too many people fail to remain awake through great periods of social change. I relate King's words to social justice advocate Desmond Tutu, who stated, "If you are neutral in situations of injustice, you've chosen the side of the oppressor." Both of these phrases reveal how our society needs to wake up in order to end injustice. We choose to advocate for what is convenient or popular, not for what makes us feel passionate. Many of us fail to advocate when many have stopped to advocate when media attention goes away and we fall back asleep. In order to see change in the world, we must remain awake. To keep Dr. King's dream alive, I have made it every single day an act of passion. I am constantly reading about worldwide injustices and asking questions about what I could do to make a difference. I know as a student, one of the largest impacts I can make here is at Western Oregon University. Now, of course, I cannot do everything alone. I am one person, and I am unable to know everything or do everything. But I still work on bettering the world around me, one action at a time. I'm a Landers resident assistant and the vice president of WU's LGBTQ student organization, Triangle Alliance. These 2 positions provide me the opportunity to impact our campus and make myself in many ways. Last year, I taught an activity titled, Where Do I Stand? To my resident assistant staff. We explored the concept of intersectionality and how we are made up of and influenced by different identities. By learning how we as RAs are made up of different identities, we are then able to honor and respect different identities our residents have so they too can feel valued and supported here at Western. No matter who we are all connected, and together we can make a difference in our communities. One way I make this difference is by being public about who I am and what I stand for. I'm doing this for representation, not attention. When I was in high school, I did not see others taking a stand and showing pride for who they are. I was ashamed of my sexuality and did not have many peers who I could look up to. I felt alone, and I almost took my own life. But I knew my dream was not over yet, so I kept fighting. I graduated high school believing I could not afford to go to Western. But a day after I graduated, I was told I received a diversity commitment scholarship. I had an opportunity to change my life and follow my dreams, and I fully embraced it. Each day I worked to be the role model I lacked in high school. I want every student I move to be proud of who they are. I want us to be awake and to know how to speak for ourselves and help each other. I am devoted to spreading education about social justice on a college campus, and I'm now seeking a career in student affairs so I can dedicate my life to impacting the lives of college students. In order for change to happen, whether it be on campus or worldwide, we must be vocal. We cannot be indifferent about the pain others suffer. We must stand together and fight for a common cause. Advocacy should not suffer from the bystander effect. We cannot wait for someone else to call out injustice. We need to be the one advocating for change and leading the charge. We cannot achieve change alone, but because we're all interconnected, we can combine our energies together to make a difference. Our campus is filled with different initiatives and programs that can collaborate to impact our students. Abby's House, Safe Zone, MSSP, and so other many organizations exist to make a difference in our community. I'm not involved with everything, but I follow the green dot model. No one has to do everything, but everyone has to do something. We must find something to be passionate about and show each other and the world our passion. And with this passion, we'll begin to wake each other up and change the world. Thank you.